for us. But today we have PFLAG. We have Danette Tritch, who is here with us today. She is the president of the board of directors of PFLAG, Colorado Springs. In this role, she is active in the chapter activities and promotes PFLAG throughout the community. She stays connected to other local and state organizations doing LGBTQ advocacy and equity work as well. Danette is a parent of a transgender adult son. She is committed to parent education and advocacy through the Inside Out Youth Services by facilitating trans parenting support group. In addition, Danette facilitates a support group for parents of trans and non-binary adult children through Stand With Trans, a Michigan-based foundation. So please welcome Danette Tritch.
Have you used the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Since this congregation is pretty connected already, the topic for today is what's new at PFLAG. So I'm hoping to, and a lot of the things I'm going to refer to today are on the website, and I'm going to scroll through a couple things there. But thank you, Rob, for the introduction. I was going to do that, but now I don't need to. My son came out 13 years ago as trans after coming out at 14 as lesbian. So that's not an atypical trajectory for trans people to, have a couple of coming outs, right? So I was living in Western Wisconsin at the time, and I always tell people that I'm the baby to PFLAG because there was not a PFLAG chapter. I knew about PFLAG, but there was one in Dade County. I was going to drive to Madison. So I went to an LGBTQ center, of course, in La Crosse, Wisconsin, and they had just hired a new director, a trans man, and that was so important to me. Immediately I knew my son was going to be okay. So when I say I have a trans son, I try not to assume too much about what people know. So, of course, he was assigned female at birth and then transitioned as a young adult. So I've been involved in this advocacy for a long time, and when I also want to say that our PFLAG chapter has a long history with this church. And since 2003, we have met at the dwelling place next door, and we have so appreciated that space. Not all people coming to LGBTQ advocacy want to walk in the church. It can be triggering for some people. So it has been important to us that we've been affiliated with a wonderful congregation, but you walk in a door and it's, love the posters in there and all those things. But the first thing that's new at PFLAG is that we're moving. Mm-hmm. So we are moving to Changeline, which is literally a block and a half away on North Nevada and Willamette. And that was prompted by a couple of things. Last July, we had just an extraordinary program on the trans military ban. And so we had active duty military in the room. We had parents of young people who are trans that were trying to join the military. And then we had someone who had retired from the military working in DOD that recently lost their key code didn't work one day and they were ushered out. So it was an extraordinary program in July, and it was very hot in that room because it's not air conditioned. And so as a trial, we met in August at Changeline, and just to kind of let people see this space, I'm sort of affiliated with Changeline through Prism Community Collective. And then
can you explain some of the, I don't know what Changeline or...
Okay, the Changeline is formerly Community Health Partnership. So they recently changed their name. And Changeline does big systems work. They also are a nonprofit that, one of their first, Community Health Partnership was formed to basically bring community partners together around people experiencing homelessness, because things were being done kind of in silos. And so Community Health Partnership took on the work of, so it's a nonprofit that also brings in big federal dollars and then parcels it out. When Club Q happened, Community Health Partnership was the nonprofit that brought in the federal dollars. Whenever you have a mass shooting, there are federal dollars to stand up a resiliency center, and that was the beginning of PRISM Community Collective. I'll talk about PRISM a little later because there's some great work going on there, and especially around LGBTQ plus provider directory, if you don't know about that. Also, I would take questions anytime. You can hold them till the end, but if you're thinking of something and you're like, I'm going to forget that, don't hesitate to raise your hand like you did back there. Yes?
Well, it's more of a comment than a question. But,
Yeah.
Changeline is a really incredible organization.
Yeah.
And their executive director, Amber Pitak,
Yeah.
I would suggest actually could be a great forum
Oh, yes.
for us.
Yeah.
You can reach me about that.
Yeah, because now they're also doing, they're also offering big systems change work. I mean, Club Q created sort of their first systems change work in healthcare, mental and physical healthcare. But they come in and assist organizations in really examining what they're doing and the systems change they need to make to move forward. So thank you for asking that. So they, Community Health Partnership then changed their name to Changeline. They bought a bank building on the corner of Willamette and North Nevada, completely renovated that building. Their offices are upstairs, and then the first floor hosts a lot of, during the day it hosts, I am on El Paso County Youth Suicide Prevention Work Group. We meet about 4 times a year there. And then in the evening, they're making that space available to other groups. So like we did with First Congregational, we made, a small donation to meet there. And, but we also moved for a couple other reasons. They have a parking lot. Right? This is huge. And some security features that were important to us. So, next door, it's not like we didn't have security, but there's a few layers of security that are important to our work. So we are moving. That's the first big news. And from October to February, we meet on Zoom. We sort of have a winter season. And then March to October, we meet in person. And also Changeline has the technology where we're by May or June, we'll be moving to hybrid meetings. Because that's really the future of the work, and we're in baby steps joining the 21st century. But they offer an OWL system that allows us to. We tried doing some hybrid with just a computer, and it didn't work the best. And so they offer the technology also to offer hybrid meetings. So we want to thank, of course, First Congregational for the long, relationship. And also, we've been a partner with Out Loud for a long time. So, we used to usher for many years. And a few years ago, they approached us about would we be interested in doing the refreshments. The person who had been doing that wanted to back up from that task. So they provide everything, but we make it happen, right? So we table. We give people directions about where, it pretty much flows in terms of coming in, but then we do the refreshments now too. So we do for the Colorado Springs, the 3 concerts that are always here. So we'll be back in May for the spring concerts, I'm sure. All right, so I might have, let me see. All right, there we go. All right, so I do want you, another thing that's new is our new and improved website. And I just wanted to go over a couple features there and would invite you, please, to take a look at this later. But on our homepage, of course, we have an introduction, and our mission, which is to create a caring, just, and affirming world for the LGBTQ plus community and those who love them. Our chapter, chapters are different. There are over 350 chapters all over the U.S. There are, how many in Colorado? Well, there's a PFLAG Denver, PFLAG Colorado Springs, PFLAG Greeley, PFLAG Fort Collins, PFLAG Buena Vista Art Valley, and PFLAG, it's Aspen area. No, I'll mention that in a second. PFLAG, I think it's called Roaring Fork Valley. PFLAG Boulder, I don't know exactly what verb to use except maybe collapsed, which can happen to chapters. A lot of chapters have had the same leadership for a long time, and Sometimes, national is trying to help chapters, get out of that format. But chapters can collapse quickly when a leader says, okay, this is my third decade and I'm not doing this anymore. And if no one else wants to, then goodbye, right? So I think Boulder has out Boulder County is, but I don't even know if out Boulder County is functioning anymore, because now Boulder has Rocky Mountain Equality, which is like One Colorado is a 501(c), so they're allowed to do partisan political work, unlike 501(c)s that are not allowed to do partisan political work. Anyway, we do political work, but it has to be nonpartisan, as all politics are personal right now. So I shouldn't say we do political work. We show up in environments where we do some indivisible things in a nonpartisan way. So if you look here, it talks about the kinds of things we do. We do this mission through support, resources, education, and advocacy. And then I wanted to show you here, we have a third Tuesday of the month meeting still, of course, every third Tuesday of the year. I have a sheet that you can sign up for our newsletter. You can do that online. Our newsletter is fantastic. If you want to know where to show up and show out for the queer and trans community, get our newsletter, because we promote what's going on in the community. Sometimes we're either sponsoring or we're showing up for that with a table. But we're promoting, our nose is to the ground about what's going on in the queer and trans community in Colorado Springs. And we also have, 2 or 3 past months newsletters. And of course, we've been promoting in our March newsletter, and we'll do so again. And we'll be tabling the Nico Lang event that's happening here on April 16th. Maybe you don't know that. I should have brought that book today. Nico Lang, who wrote American Teenager. Oh boy, am I going to know the subtitle? It's, how teenagers are surviving the hate era we're in. And Nico Lang is coming, and that is being sponsored by Inside Out Youth Services, Prism Community Collective, and Changeline. And that's Thursday, I think that's the right date, Thursday, April 16th here. So actually, one of your office, Emily, yes. We've worked with Emily for so long. Emily sent that to me, and I was really grateful. And then Inside Out has been in touch, about tabling and all those things. So then, about us is just really our history, which, that's maybe interesting or not. But of course, we've been around 30 plus years. We were founded in response to Amendment 2, which never became law, of course. But in that environment, parents started to meet privately to say, what are we going to do about our queer kids? And this is the board, although this is not. We have a new board member, and Karen Stitt, which many of you might know, is one of those people. I mean, she did our newsletter for 26 years, right? We have a new person doing the newsletter, and I'm sure, I'm just crossing my fingers they stay 2 years, right? So Karen is really in an advisory capacity now, and we have a new board member, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Then if you want to know the resources, both locally and nationally, about, of course, we have all the booklets and things. These are all titles. I brought them here, but they're always available online. These are from our national organization. But what I think is you might find interesting in our list of resources is, we have many. And, under each, like here's Prism Community Collective, and this is the 18 plus LGBTQ plus center that opened up in response to Club Q. They do specific survivor and victim programming, but also do all kinds of other programming. And Inside Out is 13 to 24, but that young adult population, once you reach early 20s, hanging out with 16-year-olds becomes a little less appealing, and so Prism has a lot of programming as well. And then, of course, I wanted to point out this provider directory. So if you know someone who's looking for care, you can go in and put what you're looking for, what insurances you have, what age you're looking for, and it will pop up providers. And then each provider has a page that will say a little bit more about them. Of course, we are in a time, which I'll probably touch on a little bit later, we are in a time of a healthcare crisis. Providers are capitulating to the threats coming from the federal government, especially around the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. They are threatening hospitals that cannot function without that funding, that if they provide trans care to minors. So, of course, the True Center for Gender Diversity, that's a part of Children's and Shoots campus in Denver, and Denver Health have paused care for the second time for minors. They are providing behavioral support services, but not puberty blockers and hormone replacement therapy. Very few minors, access surgeries, and very few places do them for minors. But the other medical resources are backed by all the physician and psychological associations, and so these protocols have been in place for a very long time. But they're pausing care, even though it's a threat, not an actuality. I have to tell parents all the time that gender-affirming care for minors remains legal. In Colorado, we are a model. But as I touch on the legislative session later, the anti-trans stuff still comes up. The impulses are here, and of course we see this on the local level in school districts, and so the advocacy just becomes greater all the time. All right, so anyway, back to, so you might want to take a look at our resource page. Then we have a way to get involved. Of course, we're an all-volunteer organization. Anytime you'd like to volunteer with us, you can fill out a form, let us know, I don't know, maybe you have board leadership experience and we would talk to you. Special skills, we're always looking for, as you saw the picture, we are, trying to change, but we are gray hairs united when it comes to our board. And so, our technology skills are, less than optimum. So we're always looking for people with skills. Then we, upcoming events. If you want to know what's going on, I don't know if our chapter meeting is on here yet, but there it is. All right. So the other things that we did this week, they go away automatically, but we tabled at Youth Documentary Academy, Shifting the Lens this week, and we also tabled yesterday at a new event, Fountain Valley, El Paso County Public Health South held a Fountain Valley Communities That Care Community Resource Fair. So 60 plus organizations came around the Fountain Valley, and that's probably an area of town that we're less, unknown. So we tabled there, and those events go away as soon as they. So anyway, check out that newsletter or the website, because it has, especially under that resources, has a ton of stuff. All right, let me get back to my my talk here. I would like, so we are an all-volunteer organization, of course, and we do, we have a year-round calendar of places where we show up and show out for the queer and trans community. And I'd like to, and we do that, we do our best work, of course, when we're doing it in partnership with someone else, right? So we have a long history of partnership with many organizations in Colorado Springs, and we are adding new ones all the time. So we either sponsor, for example, we sponsor Pikes Peak Pride, we sponsor Inside Out Youth Services Youth and Family Pride. It's in early June. Those are the two big sponsorships. We, in cooperation with the Wolmar family, we sponsor a film each year at Rocky Mountain Women's Film Festival. We sponsored a film about intersex people last year. So typically a film comes up that is relative to our work, and we put some dollars behind their work. But here are other organizations that are sponsors. Inside Out Youth Services, Prism Community Collective, Changeline, Youth Documentary Academy, Out Loud, Rocky Mountain Women's Film, El Paso County Public Health, in particular Youth Suicide Prevention work, Suicide Prevention Partnership, Southern Colorado Health Network, The Place, Pikes Peak Pride, Educating Children of Color, Southern Colorado Juneteenth, nonpartisan activities through Indivisible, and One Colorado. Yes?
I have a question for you about, you mentioned El Paso County Public Health. Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised to hear that they are partnering with you.
Okay, when I say partner, This means that we bring them in first. We brought them in twice in 2025 for speakers.
Okay.
Right, so that's how we partner with them.
Okay.
Some of these organizations we sponsor. Most of them we invite in, like you invite people to your forum. Our chapter meeting is probably 60% education versus support group. Yeah.
So
right.
thank you for the clarification. I'm glad they showed up.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is that our Board of County Commissioners is extremely anti-LGBTQ, profoundly so.
Right. But not the people who work at the county who
right,
do
well,
public health work.
And yet, the people who work at the county in that department are impacted by the leadership of the Board of County Commissioners. So I'm just curious if you have noticed any other than being aware of that tension, if you've experienced anything directly.
Well, we have been involved with El Paso County Public Health Youth Suicide Prevention Work Group Director Brittany Riffle came last year and gave us the statistics on suicides in El Paso County, and especially for youth. Then we had the El Paso County. There's a clinic inside the El Paso County building on Garden to the Gods, and they do incredible work. They have a clinic that people can come to, but they also do, they go to people on the street as well. So they do examinations, they try to get people vaccinated while they're there because it could be the time they see them. They do a lot of reproductive care. So that talk was amazing. We were just like listening for like 45 minutes, the amazing work that clinic does inside El Paso County. Then El Paso County South just did this Mountain Valley event so when I say we partner, some of that is we get a speaker from there to come and talk about certain topics.
Well,
right.
And this is indirect knowledge, so I want to be, as I share this with people in the room, people to hear this with that understanding that I don't have direct knowledge of this. But my understanding is that there is an effort currently happening among the chair of the Board of County Commissioners to shift some focus of the Board of Public Health for the county to a, if you will, make America healthy again perspective.
Right. In terms of vaccines and all those.
Just like be aware that there is an effort happening that is really important for people. And again, this is it is secondhand knowledge, so I don't want to state it as fact, but I would ask questions if you have the opportunity or know of anyone affiliated with the Board of Public Health or at the county Department of Public Health to just ask questions about their focus.
Sure.
Nancy, has that been reported and is that
No, it's I heard it from someone kind of on the inside, and I can't even remember it right now. So it's secondhand information. Therefore maybe not information, when you don't know something directly, but I wouldn't be surprised, I guess.
Yeah, that's good to know though. Yeah. Okay, all right. So another thing that's new at PFLAG is that the advocacy work has gotten broader. So to include our national organization, which we depend on for a lot of things, but our chapters operate independently, really. We're connected to them, but all the chapters are really different. As I get to know other chapters in Colorado, the chapters that are in small places tend to do way more social kinds of things because they need there to be a place where the queer and trans community can show up. And in more urban environments, there's a host of things for people to do. So chapters really are different. But our national organization has a new campaign called Fighting for Our Pride, and it's really focusing chapters on the local advocacy. And before the campaign started, we've been showing up to school board meetings like we have never done before, right? A D11, D49, D20, wherever since we don't have specific people working we're looking for a school advocacy lead right now, but again, that's a volunteer position. We really depend on the Safest Schools Coalition and Inside Out Youth Services, and there's an activist network that you can sign up for on the Inside Out website. and you can get, SMS alerts that, at the D49 board meeting coming up, we've been to a few of those, and I can tell you that there might be 2 or 3 people that get to the microphone and talk, that they don't want trans girls, in sports, or they don't want a trans person walking into a bathroom. And then there's 20 people who get up and talk about, the need for education and and yet they ignore us. They ignore us. So we see them ignoring us. But there has been some change. The change is at the ballot box. And we've seen some change in the school district. As a matter of fact, D49 reversed that policy to exclude, trans kids from sports. So, no student is 100% safe if a few students are excluded, right? And at one of these meetings when we were speaking to D11, and someone at Inside Out got up and handed over however many board members there were, we brought Dave Edwards to Colorado Springs in September and handed the board, 7 booklets about these are the best practices. This is what you should be doing in schools. Only one person voted against that night, whatever they were voting for. But there was an African-American woman, a black woman, who got up in the community and she said, I don't have ties to the LGBTQ community, but I can tell you when I was in high school, I wasn't allowed to participate in sports because I'm black. So I'm here to say that exclusion is not good, right? So it's so important when people do that. Probably should keep an eye on time here. Okay, we're good. So the advocacy work is exhausting, but necessary, right? And so we also send a team up to One Colorado Lobby Day. We just did that over the weekend of February 22nd and 23rd, Sunday and Monday. It was a 2-day event this year. I served as a Lobby Day leader, and we had really good luck meeting. I was the only one on the list that had Democratic representative and senator Amy Pascal and Mark Snyder. Everyone else on the Colorado Springs list, had an R by their rep's name, and so we were walking up steps with people because they don't really want to talk long to you, right? We were talking to aides, we were catching people in the hallway. The thing is, there's a ton of legislation, and unless they're on the committee that legislation is assigned to, they don't know about this legislation until it comes up until it gets to the point where everybody knows about it. So I'll touch on that a little bit later. Another thing that's new at PFLAG Colorado Springs is our fundraising. We participated for the first time in Give Pikes Peak campaign, and our goal in that campaign was to set aside most of the dollars earned for establishing a scholarship at Pikes Peak State College. Now we cannot by law specifically say it has to be an LGBTQ person, but we'll have a supplemental set of questions that people fill out. So we're looking for an LGBTQ or allied student who's had some experience, either benefiting from or participating in any kind of advocacy work for the LGBTQ plus community. So that campaign was very successful, and a secondary goal was raising awareness. And probably 3/4 of the donors out of the individual donors. So we had good support within our own organization to put up what's called matching dollars. Give doesn't match that. It's basically incentive dollars to the community to say we have good support in our own organization. Now, can you help match those dollars? But I would say 3/4 of the people who donated to us during the Give campaign were new to us. We had never seen the name as a member or a volunteer or a donor. And so we feel like we did increase outreach. At the same time, we were granted from the Colorado Health Foundation a sizable grant that we did not apply for. But LGBTQ work is one of the Colorado Health Foundation basically works to remove barriers to well-being, and their 3 target audiences are the BIPOC community, LGBTQ plus community, and immigrants. So we're one of, that I know of, 3 PFLAG chapters in Colorado who received a sizable grant. So we're in the process of trying to get to know people at Colorado Health Foundation. I did want to take just a little brief look back because what's new at PFLAG Colorado Springs really started to happen after Club Q. And we were basically pushed off a cliff like everyone in the community, right? And that cliff that we were pushed off was, we need to be more relevant in the community because we've been targeted, right? So it brought a sense of relevancy and a little bit of leadership. And while Club Q was a tragedy, that was a morning that I'll never forget. By 10 o'clock that morning, the board was on a meeting with PFLAG National. By Tuesday of that week, PFLAG Denver had this virtual, because we were still in COVID, to some degree in COVID, had a virtual support meeting for us, and I cried during my talk that night. And but PFLAG, the leadership of PFLAG Austin and other really big chapters were there. So that was a cliff that I don't recommend anyone jump off of, but we don't get to make choices about those. So that was kind of the beginning. Well, maybe COVID was, because we then had to learn how to do Zoom, right? And but Club Q was really the catalyst for a little light under our seats in PFLAG. Around the same time, PFLAG National rebranded, and so we had to also. That basically cost us money, but we had to rebrand, and so we did that. It took a while, and also at the same time, then PFLAG National required updates in chapter bylaws and governance documents, and trying to revitalize chapters like ours that need to be every 10 years, be recycling through board members instead of every 30.
Can you remind us what the rebranding was?
Well, the rebranding was, to be quite honest, more about colors and we probably don't need it now. I've kind of you could probably if you want to just unplug that. Well, they considered a name change as well, but decided not to. So PFLAG doesn't really anymore stand for what it used to stand for. So if you've known PFLAG for a long time, it was parents and families of lesbians and gays. But basically now it's not an acronym, it's an icon. So because like all chapters, our chapter is the same. Most new people walking through the door are looking for support with a trans child or a non-binary child, a gender expansive child, or family member. The rebranding was sort of about colors and image and those kinds of things. So organizations do that from time to time. So we have updated our bylaws, we have updated our governance. These aren't fun things to do, I can tell you, but we have done that now. And we have taken on some new leadership. Myself and Kathy Gutner and I were co-presidents for a while, but Kathy has stepped into the treasurer's role, and so but Kathy and I talk about everything together all the time, so we're still kind of co-leading. And we are in a time of board secession, and we are looking for a little bit more trans-informed people, because that's the nature of the work and the environment we're in, and just the growth of the movement of queer and trans advocacy, equity, leadership. I would say that our chapter has something else that's new, is that we realize to a greater degree the intersectionality of all the advocacy work. So, disability rights are queer and trans rights. The BIPOC community, of course, touches our work. Immigrants are a part of, as a matter of fact, in May, the Accompaniment and Sanctuary Coalition of Colorado Springs is speaking, because we need to know. It's not like I see ICE on my street, but I know it's happening, and so we need to hear from the people who know that it's happening. So they're coming in May. So we're trying to stay relevant to other advocacies that we know touch our advocacy. The protection and privacy of mental and medical health care is another advocacy that we are a part of and have to be a part of. So, and then of course our chapter communication, website, Facebook, Instagram, we're not great at it, but we're doing our best, and that has become more important. I see a couple hands, yes.
If you're not PFLAG anymore, what is the name of the organization?
It's still PFLAG. So it's an icon versus an acronym. So we don't go by, we say that all chapters are PFLAG. So they did consider that, but a name change, and I don't know what they were considering. But in the end, they knew that it had wide-ranging recognizability and decided not to change the name. So, right.
Thank you.
Yes.
With regards to the recent, with this, Kansas, recently
Yes.
they have decided to revoke, as you probably know, all the driver's licenses
Right.
for transit in the states. How are chapters looking to address that? I know there's maybe a few lawsuits that have come up against that,
Right.
but as it still stands, that law, I think, is upheld
Right.
for worse.
Right. Well, we are completely connected with One Colorado, so we look to, and our national organization put out a statement. PFLAG didn't join that lawsuit, but PFLAG is a litigant along with, ACLU and the people that actually do the work of litigating these things. PFLAG did sign on to, after the Skirmetti Supreme Court decision, that case came out of Tennessee, that basically they voted in favor of Tennessee, which was a ban of minor health care for trans minors, and PFLAG joined a lawsuit right away. Well, started the lawsuit, and then others have signed on. So we stay connected to our national organization in terms of messaging about that. One Colorado, Rocky Mountain Equality. In the beginning, we try to message about that so people know and can be aware of it. As a local chapter, our hands are not touching it specifically, but what we do so through the organizations that we know that are in a position to be touching it more broadly. So we immediately get messaging out about it so that our constituents know. We do that, through social media because it's more timely. That's, these awful things are going on. I saw that Lyft and Uber were giving, free rides to people to get to work because, if you were following the law, you no longer had a functioning driver's license. Well, who functions like that, right? Think about your own life there. So thank you for that question. So I will touch briefly so that you know what's always new at PFLAG is the legislative session. And there are 3 ballot initiatives that have turned in signatures and are likely to go through. One already has, and that scares me more than anything, to ask the El Paso County electorate to vote on something that's anti-trans. So, we asked the state to vote on these, of course, but I live in El Paso County, and so 2 of those are specific, 2 of those ballot initiatives, 109 and 110. 109 is athletic participation, and 110, is about, trans care for minors. Then there's legislation that's been also introduced that's about the same things. So if one doesn't work, maybe the other will. And I don't know if you're aware, but in the last legislative session, One Colorado defeated 5 anti-trans bills. They have to raise as much money to do the good work that they do to defeat the bad. So I'm going to touch on their campaign, which is about raising funds to do that in a minute. Then there are some pieces of legislation. So those, and then 108 is about sex trafficking, and what it's going to do is something that One Colorado is not in favor of. So look those up: 108, 109, and 110. They're also in our newsletter. So go to our website, look up our March newsletter. It's explained a little better there. Then there are 4 bills to date. Only one of them has been introduced. There are 4 bills that One Colorado is supporting. One is the statute of limitation on conversion therapy, being able to, if you were the victim of conversion therapy, being able to go back and sue a provider. There is a protecting name and gender marker changes for minors that I know has gotten through the House and is maybe in the Senate now. That is basically kind of We had Jude's Law, which basically set up self-attestation and didn't require that you prove surgeries or anything. First of all, those laws are antiquated because the vast majority of trans people don't access a ton of surgeries for a lot of reasons. I can go into those if you're interested. But this now, and Jude's Law also established that you didn't have to publish in the newspaper a name change like my son did. Had to, publish it in a newspaper twice. He was in Denver at the time he did his name change. So that has been eliminated now, and this new law is about protecting name change and gender marker processes, which you can do as a minor. Colorado Name Change Project is a great resource for having all the documents there, whether you're a minor or not. But those would be, sealed and not. Then there's a gender affirming care fund. Many states are going outside of our healthcare system, which is an insurance healthcare system, and they are providing funds for people. You would have to qualify, so it's for low income, maybe people that have been where the federal government is making Medicaid something you can't use anymore for gender affirming care. So these would all be private donations. I know when I was speaking to legislators last week or at the end of February, the first thing they want to know is the fiscal note, right? And so there's no fiscal note with that, but it would be a fund to go outside of insurance and the healthcare system to be able to access funds to get care. Yes?
I wondered if you've heard of a nonprofit organization called Point of Pride.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. My husband's a co-founder of it.
Ooh.
And so we are new to Colorado, but we started attending this church recently.
Okay.
Since December. And so he's actually on a work trip with Point of Pride right now. I'm not here, but they are a great resource, and I'm sure if you know about them. But I know that my husband does want to, and myself as well, we want to be more involved locally.
Right. Sounds like we need to have him come to a chapter meeting.
Yeah.
If he's around
yeah,
and available.
I would love to connect you.
That sounds great.
Yeah, so maybe afterwards.
I'll be sure to, I'll give you one of our cards, and I'll put my specific PFLAG. You can always catch us at the admin email address, but I'll give you my Danette at PFLAG.
Great, and then more of a question coming from our family in terms of looking for support locally is, so obviously he's a trans man that is a father to our child, and so we've been very sort of closeted about that information since moving here. And so I wondered if you know of any resources for trans parents that are local, that are just looking for support, because it's just kind of been really tough.
Right.
Yeah.
Super specifically, I don't know of a group.
Okay.
You might want to, and this is on our website, you might want to access the Transparency Resource List. Okay. This is a document that I created for the Transparency program at Inside Out, but it has a lot of resources. Okay. There's also a Transparent USA group that's in Denver. Okay. That currently we don't have anyone coming to our meetings that are in that are, but certainly, our chapter work is, we're looking for any and all representation that touches this work. So please use us as a resource. Okay. Come to us. Help us understand the situation. There's no better, like the trans-military ban talk we had in July. People were just like, if you're not in the military, you don't know this stuff. You don't know this life, right? That you're 17 and a half years in and you're not going to get your retirement because you're a trans person and now you're on administrative leave. And that sucks big time, right? So you don't know this until you know this.
Right.
And so, and once you know, you can't unknow. This is my line everywhere I go. Once you know this, you can't unknow this. So we know, we learn, we do better. That's somewhat of a Maya Angelou quote, but it's not exactly her words. So do take a look at that. And also, One Colorado might also be a good connection if you go to their website. They have staff, right? And they have healthcare staff, and they have staff that's working on GSA work, and they have staff that works on this. So that's always a good place.
Is it One Colorado?
One Colorado is our state's leading LGBTQ plus equity and advocacy work. All states have one. You might think that Florida doesn't. Well, Florida's got one too. Every state has A4TE, again, all of this information is on the PFLAG website.
Okay.
The PFLAG website will have all of this also. A4TE, Advocates for Trans Equality, would also be a great, that's a national organization, and that was a merging of the Trans Legal Defense Fund and another trans equality organization. They recently merged and created A4TE, Advocates for Trans Equality. Great organization. They've been doing the vast majority of the passport stuff that's been going on.
Okay.
My son got a passport in 2016 during Trump 1.0, and his passport expires in a year, and he's not going to be able to get a passport, right? You can't get a passport unless you go back to your assigned gender at birth. So this is serious business. This affects people's everyday lives. How are we doing for time there, Rob? Okay, we're good. All right. The questions have been in and out. So, okay, I did want to touch on. So I did want to say, and then the last legislation that One Colorado is supporting is medical debt protection. A lot of queer and trans people find themselves in massive debt, to do simple things, like top surgery or whatever, or buying, getting medications, especially if they're uninsured. And so I can tell you that the trans community overall, these are generalizations, but are overeducated for the types of jobs they end up having to take sometimes to get work. So, So One Colorado has established a campaign called Families Not Politics. It's in our last newsletter. So this is all available at PFLAG. You don't have to go searching very far to find this information. So it's essentially a fundraising mechanism to be able to poll, gather the leadership, go into communities, and to try to get the anti-trans stuff. Now, like last legislative session, the anti-trans bills didn't make it out of committee, but there's a lot more energy and huff behind it now because of what's happening federally. We're hoping they don't get out of committee, but these ballot initiatives are the scary part. They've turned in their signatures, so they're in a process. They go through 3 steps. They do a sample, and if they pass a percentage of the sample, they do a little broader look at the signatures, and then the 3rd step would be that One Colorado would get 24 hours to spend at the Secretary of State's office looking at them themselves. But if those ballot initiatives get on the ballot, this is the real scary part. So, be talking to your legislators, email them. It's very easy to get to them, and this is the state stuff that's happening. So, all right. These are probably our primary kind of not issues, but the work that we're doing. More and more families, of course, are coming to us supporting a trans, non-binary, gender-expansive child or family member. And those that have are giving us really great feedback about the support and the resources that they're getting. The fight is healthcare right now, so that LGBTQ health provider directory is important. And we're seeing just this grand capitulation of providers. This CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, that are threatening hospitals. There was a carve out for providers that are not in a hospital setting, but I can tell you locally that providers that were providing minor care are deciding not to provide minor care right now because they feel threatened. Is there another question?
Actually, a bit of a question.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, too, Denver is probably one of the only major cities in Colorado that currently provides that level of healthcare too, whereas Colorado Springs has little of it.
I would check out the health provider directory if you really want to know. It's both mental and physical health.
Gotcha.
So there are some. The Lane Center is terrific at UCCS. There are some pediatricians. There's a couple through the Matthews Boo network that are terrific. I know about these because parent to parent, we pass on this information. the same kind of nonsense that in the healthcare system we have will apply. Is the provider taking new patients? Do they take mine insurance? If it's a mental health provider, there are some that don't take insurances, but might provide a sliding scale. All of that is in it. So I would take a look at that. I try to stay very closely aligned with parents through the work and transparency that I do with Inside Out and PFLAG to what is happening on the local scene, and this is how I hear these things. We'll have, because Colorado is a model, but we can't think that we're not penetrable because we are. Colorado is a model. We have state protections for this care, but if providers aren't providing it, then that's a problem. I lost my train of thought on that. Sorry about that. Maybe it'll come back to me. We just kind of have to be on the forefront of knowing that, just think, many of you in the room are parents, had kids. How important is it that you had a solid relationship with the pediatrician in your kid's life, right? And you trusted that person. Those pillars are not there for families now. You have to find the pillar in your school building. You have to find the pillar that is your primary care provider. You have to find pillars in the community, in your churches, in your neighborhoods, in your, your places of worship, I should say. Families are wobbling because those pillars are not there. The school and the legislative advocacy work that's required of our organization in a way that we didn't really do before as much. We know as an organization there is a need to reach more communities. A lot of the major LGBTQ work in the country is cloaked in whiteness, so we know that we have to go out to those communities. We don't sit and wait for them to come to us. So we've been affiliated with Educating Children of Color for many years. This will be our second year at Juneteenth. We do go to and try to support Chinook Center to some degree. But the Spanish-speaking, the immigrant community, the Hispanic community, we're not very tied into. So we're making baby steps to be sure that all families can find us and find the kind of support. All of our materials are available in Spanish. I didn't bring those today, but all of our titles we have available in Spanish. And lastly, the importance of allies. PFLAG has had a Straight for Equality program for a long time. That program has become more important. So we have some great allies that come to our meetings that they, maybe have a niece or a nephew that has come out, is maybe queer or trans. But we have, allies are important in this work because, our community is not just and safe and affirming for all if it isn't just safe and affirming for all. So on that note, I would say that, one thing that you could always do is become a PFLAG member. We keep our rates very low, $35 individual, $55 family, and we have higher rates for those who can. So, we have many people who join annually. They never come to a meeting, but it's important to them that they have joined PFLAG, that their $35 is at work in PFLAG. So think about that, but subscribe to our newsletter, please. If you're looking for more ways to be an ally, to show up and show out, we can show you that. Join a chapter meeting anytime. Our meetings, everything that we do is, of course, open to the public. You don't have to be a member to get our newsletter or come to a meeting or volunteer with us. We have volunteers who aren't members. Join us on any of our activities. We don't even have an application. Since we're not a direct service like Inside Out, you don't have to have a background check. And it's important, of course, to do that in youth serving organizations. But you don't have to go through a background check with us. We'll put you to work. You can indicate an interest, a special skill, volunteering. I guess I'll end and then take any general questions. Today is International Women's Day, and if we're not including trans women and non-binary trans feminine women, then we haven't been listening. So, all right. So, yes.
Yeah, so I grew up queer in Woodland Park. And I've been thinking a lot about how, you know, it's not really all that possible right now for queer kids to be in that school district. And so I've been thinking about, like, how can I support queer and trans kids in that community? I lived there briefly a couple years ago, had to leave again. It was just too, because I'm also a queer parent, it was just too bad. So I had to leave and live in the Springs now. And the Springs seems to have changed positively from when I was a kid. So there's that. But Woodland Park has kind of reached a point where, like, you just cannot reasonably send a child to that district who is queer or trans. I would really worry about their safety, and I know a lot of parents have sent their kids to Manitou instead for that or other reasons. So I'm just wondering, like, I guess what ideas you would have about, like, supporting queer and trans kids who are still there.
So, of course, we're aware of what's going on in Woodland Park, and as a matter of fact, we even had some connection through PFLAG Denver. Even reached out about a year ago, and it's like, what's going on in Woodland Park? It's a takeover. And if you didn't, you know, Rob mentioned that Wes Pritchard, who's a member of PFLAG, and is has started a Freedom from Religion Foundation, Pikes Peak region, the speaker in, I believe it was, was that? Was it January or February? Was basically about the Christian nationalism that took over Woodland Park. That was an incredible talk, and there Wes is coming here to the forum, and in our newsletter you'll see that there's another speaker coming up. It's a Freedom from Religion Foundation attorney, but gosh, I wish I could remember the name of the Colorado Times reporter who spoke that night about the Christian nationalism in Woodland Park. So there's a writer for Colorado Times, Colorado Times reporter who grew up in that in the environment of Christian nationalism and left. But I wouldn't get into a biblical discussion with this person because he knows it all, even though he doesn't buy into it anymore. He was raised in this, you know, very conservative environment, but now is, you know, writing about this stuff. And so a couple of things. We've had some parents, come to a transparency meeting, and you know, they lived in Woodland Park for 23 years, and their kid comes out, and they've never felt more isolated, right? So we know this is happening. I think anytime in that Woodland Park, I went up last year, and it was a really beautiful event, and you know, handed my card, a PFLAG card, to one of the organizers and said, you know, we want to be here for Woodland Park. So I would say, you know, any of our materials that you can visibly put somewhere, you know, the library, you know, safe places.
The library.
You know, librarians are wonderful. If you haven't seen the librarian documentary, you should. Again, wasn't in our newsletter, but it's on our social media. We're kind of trying to encourage people to watch that. The librarians. So it's about librarians all over the country who stood up in the face of all right, so there's all these Christian nationalist groups around the country, and we have them here. You know, we have Moms for Liberty. They show up at all the D11 board meetings. They make the treats. They, you know, this is why it's important for us to show up, because they're there. And, you know, Alliance Defending Freedom, Heritage Foundation, Americans for Prosperity. These are all these, you know, conservative groups, like, you know, our CD5 rep is straight out of Americans for Prosperity. I mean, he worked for Americans for Prosperity, so this tells me immediately what his values are, right? So, so these groups are really well funded, and they put out these lists of books that they want local people to go to their, you know, and of course, no one's read the book, right? And the librarian will tell you, well, the last time that book was checked out was 2020, so it's not like a lot of kids are reading it either. But they were under pressure to remove books about Black history and anything LGBTQ, you know, because it was, you know, teaching kids to have sex or something, you know, ridiculous comments like this, you know, and they're trying to affect curriculums. Anyway, these librarians, some of them lost their jobs and their livelihoods. Anyway, the
Yeah.
library, it's on PBS, I think.
It's really good, and the library in Woodland Park is like it's a safe space.
Yes, exactly.
It's like an oasis, so it's good to support it.
Right, right. So I would say, as a beginning, being sure that families in Woodland Park, know about, PFLAG Colorado Springs or Prism Community Collective, that they know about the LGBTQ Health Provider Directory, having, a card and a trifold pinned to a bulletin board, maybe, some of the booklets, knowing the resources. A handout from Inside Out would also be super helpful because not only do they, of course, they're a center on West Colorado, they also do, they have an online platform that kids can always be on. They use the Discord. And it's during, during the open space time, the Discord is supervised, If Inside Out is open, then the Discord is active. I mean, they're sharing their gifts and memes and, artwork and all this stuff. But it's good for kids that then maybe don't have a ride from Woodland Park to get to Inside Out, right? And not all queer trans kids, really want to walk in that door, right? In the same way that for parents, sometimes it's really hard to walk in that door, of a PFLAG meeting. That's a big step, but you can join us.
I'm afraid we're running out of time.
Right.
So please come and check out all the many resources available and consider getting involved with PFLAG. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet. Pleasure. Oh, tonight there is a movie. It's being shown in 1946. All right, your people know about it already.
It's in Monument tonight from 4 to 6.
The Woodmore Barn. And they're showing it over 2 nights, and I can't be there next, but I'm going to show up tonight.
Tonight and next Sunday.
So 1946 is a film about some researchers who researched kind of a misinterpretation of biblical terms that in 1946 that really started the anti-gay movement within institutional churches. Yeah. Right. So.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'm willing to refuse to do that.
Great. And I will
So I cannot believe
Yeah.
My earring, but my
they
earring
have done it. Thank you. And now I feel like they cowed or something that way.
Right.
Thank you.
I will. Yeah.
I need to write.
So that's his name.
Totally. I'm looking for
We just had to do live streams when we were latest today. I'm listening and I'm not walking the door completely out.
Yeah, cool. Right.
I can't either. Like who? She's the one that. Yeah. I mean, I would think there was a lot of
Once you're subscribed, it's easy to find.
when they had their committee.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. I like them as a good band.
Well, I'll go if they do that. If they don't correct that,
Please share
I
that
would happily just
widely.
go into the CSU Pueblo Library and just walk the library and just not pay
There's so many eyes.
Right. Well, check out our resources on the PFLAG website.
So, I can tell there's kind of an emerging backlash.